Here we'll talk about quantified statements. So universally and existentially quantified statements can be constructed from logical operations. So for example, we'll consider an example where the domain is the set of positive integers. We let p of x be x's prime and O of x be x's odd. So we can have the proposition there exists an x such that p of x and the negation of O of x. So this states that there's a positive number that's both prime and not odd, which is true because 2 is prime and it's also not an odd number. The proposition for all x, if p of x then O of x, says for every positive integer, x, if x is prime, then x is odd. And this is false because once again we have the counterexample of 2. 2 is prime, but it's not odd. So therefore I have a true, then false, which is false. The universal and existential quantifiers are generally just called quantifiers. And a logical statement that includes a universal or existential quantifier is just a quantified statement. So the quantifiers for all and there exist are applied before any of the other logical operations used for propositions. So when we're dealing with order of operations, these are always the first ones to deal with. So the statement for all x, p of x, and q of x is equivalent to evaluating p of x for all values of x and then doing an and q of x, as opposed to p of x and q of x and then considering all x. A variable x in the predicate p of x is called a free variable since it's free to take on any value in the domain. If I look at a statement for all x p of x, this is called a bound variable because it's bound to a quantifier. The only way we can have a statement become a proposition is if there are no free variables. We need all variables to be bound. So if I go back to my last example, the first example for all x, p of x, and q of x is not a proposition because the x and the q of x is not bound. It's not bound to any type of quantifier. The second one, where I have the parentheses around the p of x and q of x, has both of the variables bound, so it is a proposition.